Hi, my name is Nuraina Shafena binti Mohamad Reduan as first presenter.
Hi, my name is Nureen Maisarah binti Shamsul Kahar as the second presenter. Today, our group will present about the factor that enhance digital skill among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah.
First and foremost, background of study. It enables the student to produce and exchange digital information, engage and collaborate and solve problems in order to attain productive and creative self-fulfillment in their life, studies, job and social activities. A person with digital skill understands how to look for process and evaluate information, accomplish job tasks, communication and execute other responsibilities within the workflow. As digitalization remains a top priority on national, regional and worldwide agendas, higher education institutions (HEI) throughout the world are experiencing ongoing transformation to meet the requirement of societies and labor markets. The digitalization of higher education provides new and innovative methods of delivering teaching and learning, as well as new methods of organizing and controlling instructional activities. So, the main purpose of digital skill among students to create and share digital information, interact and cooperate, and solve issues in order to achieve productive and creative self-fulfillment in study. Next is the problem statement. Digital learning expands access to education and information while equipping students with a mentality and talents that position them for success today and in the future. Digital skills among students are more towards creating and sharing digital information, interact and cooperate, and solve issues to achieve productive and creative self-fulfillment in study. Most of the technology today is the machines to delivering content, such as most of the lecturers today likely to provide the learning material and tasks through online platforms such as WhatsApp, Telegram, Microsoft Teams, and UiTM. However, different students have different digital skills and they keep improving the skill whether by force or by self-interest. The researchers have an interest to know the factors that enhance digital skill among students, focusing on final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. In our research, we have 5 research questions. First, what is the level of digital skill among final year degree students? Second, what is the relationship between academic requirement and digital skills among final year degree students? Third, what is the relationship between perceived of usefulness and digital skills among final year degree students? Fourth, what is the relationship between personality of the student and digital skills among final year students? And last but not least, what is the most influential factor that enhance digital skill among final year degree students? So, we have 5 research objectives to focus. First, to study the level of digital skill among final year degree students. Second, to examine the relationship between academic requirement and digital skill among final year degree students. Third, to determine the relationship between perceived of usefulness and digital skill among final year students. Next, to identify the relationship between personality of the students and digital skill among final year degree students. Last but not least, to investigate the most influential factor that enhance digital skill among final year degree students. So now, we move to the conceptual framework. This is the conceptual framework. Identify the factor that lead to enhance digital skill among degree students is determined by 3 independent variables. The first independent variable is the academic requirement. Nowadays, the digital skill has been included in the academic requirement, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic occurred. According to the Nur Shafarina binti Abdul Rahman, the relevance of digital learning must be emphasized since students would fall behind in their education if it is not implemented. The second independent variable is perceived usefulness. Digital technology boosts student outcomes because they enable students to apply their knowledge and skill in more effective way, and the tools are more powerful for learning topics. The last independent variable is personality of the student. Personality may impact learning indirectly through attitudes and motivation, which form specific learning concept, learning investment, and preferred learning methods. So now we move to the research methodology. For the research design, according to the SNA-HABI, if the researcher gather data before developing the research design, the research conclusion would be weak and persuasive, failing to address the research question. In the research, we use quantitative method. Quantitative research design is a technique and measurement that yields distinct results. The unit analysis of this study is individual, whereby it refers to the final year degree student AM228 in UiTM Kedah. The data will gather from student of final year degree AM228 at UiTM Kedah to represent the world population in this university. The sample size was chosen based on Quiche and Morgan. Basically, the total population for students from final year degree student AM228 program is 220. Since population aim is 220, the sample size as of this study is 136. For the sampling technique, we use probability sampling. The probability sampling method is used when all subjects in the entire population have equal chances of being included in the sample population. So, the sampling technique that the researcher apply is proportionate stratified sampling technique. In this study, the population was divided into several classes. The population of this research is final year degree student AM228 at UiTM Kedah. This sampling technique is appropriate since the final year degree students of UiTM Kedah are divided into homogeneous subgroup, which is 8 classes. For the measurement, we have 3 scale, which is nominal scale, ordinal scale, and interval scale. According to Maisarah, nominal data is information or data that has no rating and it is natural order. For example, a person's marital status, married or unmarried, or gender, male or female. Next, ordinal scale is like nominal scale in certain ways but differ in terms of ordering. For example, do respondents agree or strongly agree with a take on an issue? Besides that, according to Hazman Shah, interval scale can be defined as the scale where the researcher has or suggests equal interval between scales points. For example, the researcher used light scale as a tool to measure variables in the questionnaire. In this study, the data will be collected through questionnaire. The questionnaire will be distributed to the final year degree student of AM228 at UiTM Kedah. For this study, the questionnaire are designed to identify the relationship between independent variable and factor that enhance digital skill among final year degree student AM228 at UiTM Kedah. According to Syed Mohamad, data collection is the systematic gathering and measurement of information from study variable in order to answer research question, test hypothesis, and access research outcomes. Last but not least is data analysis. The data that being analysis will be used in this research are descriptive statistic, person correlation, and multiply regression analysis. According to Yelapu, descriptive statistic is a strategy for organizing data by defining the connection between variables in a sample or population. Next, person correlation. According to Scober, the researcher used correlation method to identify the link between two variables, which are dependent variables and independent variables. Lastly, multiply regression analysis. Regression analysis, according to Uyadik and Guler, is a statistical approach for assessing the relationship between variables that have a reason and result relationship.
Next, I will proceed with the findings and result. And in these findings and result, we're focusing on 5 different research objectives. Which the first research objective is to study the level of digital skill among final year degree students, specifically for AM228 students in UiTM Kedah. And the table here, it shows the mean value result for dependent variable of questionnaire. This mean value has been determined by the Likert scale, which is first is stand for strongly disagree, second is for disagree, third is for agree, and fourth is for strongly agree. And what we can be conclude from this table is, it can be concluded that the average mean score for level of digital skill among final year degree student is around 3.65, which is we can say that it was moderately high. In other words, we can say that the level of digital skill knowledge among final year degree student is quite good because they know what is digital skill, they know what is important of digital skill, and also they know how to use their knowledge and skill when fronted with a technological problem. And for second objective, we determine to examine the relationship between academic requirement and digital skills among final year degree students. And in this objective, we have used a Pearson correlation as our method to measure the relationship between academic requirement and digital skills among final year degree students. And along with that, we also come with 2 different hypotheses, which is null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. And for null hypothesis, it says that there is no relationship between academic requirement and digital skills among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. However, for alternative hypothesis, it says that there is a relationship between academic requirement and digital skills among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. And based on the table here, it indicates the relationship between academic requirement and digital skill among final year degree students has a moderately positive correlation. It is because, as you can see, the R value shows 0.560 as a result, and the P value was 0.00, which is lower than 0.5. Thus, we can say that alternative hypothesis is accepted because there is a relationship between academic requirement and digital skill among final year degree students in AM228 students at UiTM Kedah. And for the third objective, we want to know and we want to determine the relationship between perceived usefulness and digital skills among final year degree students. And along with that, we also come with the two different hypotheses, which is null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. For the null hypothesis, it says that there is no relationship between perceived usefulness and digital skills among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. However, for the alternative hypothesis, it says that there is a relationship between perceived usefulness and digital skills among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. This from the table here, it indicates the relationship between perceived of usefulness and digital skills among final year degree students has a moderately positive correlation. And since the R value is 0.634 and the P value is 0.000, which is lower than 0.5, it can be concluded that alternative hypothesis is accepted, which is there is a relationship between perceived of usefulness and digital skill among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. Next, for the fourth objective, we want to know and we want to identify the relationship between personality and digital skills among final year degree students. Same with the previous objective, we came along with the two different hypotheses, which is null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. For the null hypothesis, it says that there is no relationship between personality and digital skills among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. Meanwhile, for the alternative hypothesis, it says that there is a relationship between the personality and digital skills among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. And based from the table here, it indicates the relationship between personality and the digital skill among final year degree students has a moderate positive correlation. Since the R value is 0.581 and the P value is 0.000, which is lower than 0.05, then it can be seen that alternative hypothesis is accepted, which is there is a relationship between personality and the digital skill among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. And for the fifth objective, we want to investigate the most influential factor that enhance digital skill among final year degree students in UiTM Kedah. And to measure this objective, we decided to use a regression analysis method as our method to measure this objective. Along with that, in this regression analysis, it can be the four different assumptions. And for the first assumption, it is assumption about testing the ratio of cases to the independent variable. And due to that, we need to fulfill this assumption by completing the task by using the formula as shown here. And as we can see here, the first assumption is not validated since our sample is more than 74. For the second assumption is about outlier analysis and multivariate outliers. After we compute our data in SPSS, we can conclude that the second assumption of the task is fulfilled because there are no multiple variance outliers in the analysis because the minimum of 0.038 from Mahalanobis distance is below 16.27. Thus, it shows the second assumption is not validated. And the third assumption is about multicollinearity and singularity test toward our independent variable. For the first independent variable, which is academic requirement, we can say that the third assumption is not validated because there is no issue of multicollinearity problem since the tolerance value is 0.414, which is greater than 0.10, and also the VIF value is 2.414, which is lower than 10. And also for the second independent variable, which is perceived of usefulness, it is also not validated, the third assumption, because there is no issue of multicollinearity problem since the tolerance value is 0.506, which is greater than 0.10, and also the VIF value is 1.977, which is lower than 10. And also for the third independent variable, which is personality, it is also not validated, the third assumptions, because there is no multicollinearity problem, and also since the tolerance value is 0.535 is greater than 0.10, and the VIF value is 1.868, which is lower than 10. And for the fourth assumption, it is about normality, linearity, homogeneity, and independent residual testing. And as you can see from the table here, it is a table about the normality testing result for all the independent variables, which are academic requirement, perceived usefulness, and personality. And according to this outcome, all the skewness and kurtosis value, it can be considered as normally distributed since the value are between negative 2.5 to 2.5, which is in the interval according to George and Mallory in 2010. And for the linearity, homogeneity, and independent residual, it can be said that all the dots and cluster uniformly around the regression line. Therefore, there were a linear relationship between academic requirement, perceived usefulness, and personality. Next is about multiple regression analysis. Based on the result here, it shows the perceived usefulness as the most contributed factor that enhanced digital skill among final year degree students. This is because it shows the standardized coefficient beta value of perceived usefulness has a greater contribution as compared to the value standardized coefficient beta value of academic requirement and personality factor. Next is research limitation. In this study, we have determined for two limitations. First is small sample size. In this study, the researcher employed stratified sampling to establish the overall sample size, which resulted in a sample size of just 136 respondents for the study. And due to that, the small sample size will result in less accurate result because there will be less representative of the entire population. And this makes it more challenging to determine whether a particular result is a true finding or not. Second limitation is about respondent reluctance answering the questionnaire. In this study, the questionnaire has been predicted to be complete within 2 to 3 weeks, but the process has taken over a month to be done. This is because there were not many responses, even though the questionnaire has been sent out to all of the Part 5 and Part 6 students via online platforms such as WhatsApp and Telegram. Next, we move to the recommendation. In order to expand the research range and enhance the sample size for the study, one of the suggestions that we suggest is to incorporate with other UiTM branches around Malaysia. By incorporating with other branches, the number of sample size among final year degree students can be increased. Due to that, the researcher will be better able to comprehend the factors that influence the level of digital skills. Next, the other suggestion that can be distributed by researcher is to physically hand out the questionnaire to their respondent directly. This is because this action is meant to guarantee the respondent to fill out the questionnaire as soon as the researcher hand it out to them. As a conclusion, there are 3 independent variables that have been carried out in this study, which are academic requirement, perceived of usefulness, and personality of the students that influence the level of digital skills among final year degree students. And also, it can be concluded that the most influential factor that lead to influence on the level of digital skill was perceived usefulness, while the least influential factor were academic requirement and personality factors. And due to that, it seems that the data from the research can be used to improve the level of digital skills of final year degree students and UiTM Kedah at the future.